you're probably wondering what just happened. So let me put it into words for you to understand. Greetings to all. Thank you to the honorable guests, students, and everyone who has come today to listen to a variety of talks connected to this year's theme, which is mental health. Yes, as you can tell, I am a dancer. And like every story, the story of how I became a dancer is significant. So I still remember that day. I was in kindergarten then. And it was just another day my aunt and I were walking home from school. Except that day, a young, fair lady walked up to us and gave us her business card. And then poof, she was gone. Immediately, I made a connection with her, and I couldn't explain why. So my mom explained to me that this was a dance teacher, and boy, was I excited. I remember how the 9 Navarasams, the emotions, poured out of me from excitement because I had already made up my mind that I was going to these classes, to anger because my mom said she'll think about it. But my mom finally said okay, and here I am, 12 years later, as a student of Bharatanatyam who will be doing her Arangetram soon. Now, Toronto is home to many Bharatanatyam dancers, and as a student, I'm taking the serious responsibility of making sure that this art form continues to be shared to the next generations. You see, every dance form, every footwork, I see as a beautiful story. So, if our libraries house thousands and thousands of stories, our Bharatanatyam pieces contain millions of stories connected to life. Every time I stand on a stage, I get this opportunity to tell such marvelous historic tales of kings, gods, and goddesses. Now, I know you're probably wondering, how is all of this related to mental health? Bear with me for another few minutes. As a mature dancer, I see every dance piece as something that teaches me a lesson. I stop, and I ask myself deep questions, and through this, I find myself improving my own mental health because I realize that life is a process with emotions, but what's important is what we decide to do with these emotions. And that is what I wanted to share with you today. I want to talk about dance and how it's made me a strong-minded teenager. Like a few weeks ago, I attended a family function where not everyone sat together. Some people walked over to every table, saying hello and catching up. But others sat far away, even avoiding eye contact. It made me feel uncomfortable how even I was being avoided because of some families holding grudges. But I stopped and I thought about it. I realized that life is too short and there just isn't enough time to be holding grudges. But I only understood this after asking myself, what is this event teaching me? What can I take away from this bad experience? What can I take away from this bad experience? Now, yes, I've been telling you how dance has changed my life, but let me back it up with some stats. Swedish researchers conducted a study on over 100 teenage girls who were struggling with issues like depression and anxiety. Half of these girls attended weekly dance classes while the other half didn't. Now, the results showed that the girls who took the dance classes had improvements in their mental health and even reported a boost in their mood. These positive effects lasted up to 8 months after the classes ended. So researchers concluded that dance can result in a positive experience and even lead to sustained healthy habits. Now, how does our brain react to dance? Studies using PET imaging have identified regions of the brain that contribute to dance learning and performance. These regions include the motor cortex, somatosensory cortex, basal ganglia, and cerebellum. Now, the motor cortex is involved in the planning, control, and execution of voluntary movement. The somatosensory cortex, located in the mid-region of the brain, is responsible for motor control and hand-eye coordination. The basal ganglia, a group of structures located deep in the brain, works with other brain regions to smoothly coordinate movement, while the cerebellum integrates input from the brain and spinal cord and helps in planning fine and complex motor actions. Now, as we know, to create a change in society is not easy, but what I believe is that we can use dance and even music as a medium to create a change. For me, this medium is obviously dance. Now, through the medium of dance, I've been able to educate myself more on mental illnesses, but I've also been able to create stories. Create these stories that narrate the struggles that people go through with their mental health. But first, let's start off with a dance piece that all Bharatanatyam dancers would have learned, Varnam. Swamini by Sri Papanasam Sivan. It is a dance piece that is dedicated to the god Muruga. So listen to this line. Swamini manamirangi arultama taye nidiye Muruga kuga. This is the first line that is sung in this Varnam. It is essentially asking the god to have pity and to give blessings. Now, as the song continues, listeners learn that this dance piece is actually about a young girl who has fallen madly in love with Lord Muruga, and she misses him. While watching this Varnam, the majority of us would simply see this love she has for him and how that causes her pain. That's what I saw at first too. But then I decided to dig deeper, and when I did, I was able to see a whole different angle. I was able to see that same young girl struggling to survive and face loneliness, which ultimately weakens her mental health. Pumel valve vermbenen nendal, puve manam nondale. She believed that her life on earth was pointless, and she was left broken by this. Now, with understanding each word, I asked myself several questions. I reflected. Isn't this exactly what girls and even boys I know have experienced in high school? I recalled specific individuals claiming that their life on earth was pointless, and it was simply because a person that they cared about, or maybe even had a crush on, wasn't talking to them anymore. It made me understand and feel what a person experiences when he or she feels so little of themselves because of others and their absence. So I asked myself, how would I react? Would I also be upset over what happened and regret my own life? Or would I just take in the experience and move on? I was able to feel what it might feel like for a character to be struggling with his or her mental health. Now, you see, this Varnam allowed me to ask questions and look for answers. But it also inspired me to create stories. Create these stories that narrate the struggles people go through with their mental health. So here is a real life story. There was a girl who was intelligent and beautiful. Now, she was in high school like most girls her age, except sometimes she felt a certain way. She wasn't herself. Now, sometimes she just felt so overwhelmed and tired. Maybe she just needed to rest, to get some sleep. She began to feel uninterested in the things that used to make her happy. She wasn't herself. She didn't know that she had depression or even what it was. Why? Because no one talked about it. Maybe she could have told someone how she wasn't feeling like herself, how she wasn't okay. But was there really anyone that would understand? No one would even care. She only felt like she was a burden to her mom and dad, and the only way to end this pain was to maybe put an end to herself. But wait, her story doesn't end there, because she gets help from a doctor. But it was a doctor without a stethoscope, one that didn't always have to give her needles. It was simply a person who cared, who understood and saw that something wasn't okay and wanted to help. A doctor that was finally able to diagnose her and give her treatments. You see, she would write take medications, but she watched her mental health improve. Sometimes all they did was talk. She was finally able to see that she wasn't a burden, and she was finally at peace. She could go to school, and she even graduated and made it successfully to a university. So her story didn't end there because she got that help. Mental health, mana alitam, needs to be taken care of. And professionals are there to help, to assist, and to care. Which is why I believe that dance is one of the most perfect ways to bring in awareness for mental health. So here is my vision. My vision is that we create dance pieces that reflect what teenagers go through, to create these pieces that resemble the struggles that people go through with their mental health. So, together, let's dive into mental health with dance, and together we can create dialogue and build bridges. Thank you.